Hendon Hooker's status for this weekend?
You know, it's kind of interesting. Y'all may already know this. I may be covering ground you already know, but you know, when he kind of slipped in the game, I thought that's when he got hurt, and that was not it. You know, talking to Hendon and Mike, it was a play before that. So he's out there going and looks good. So.
Raise your hands. Get your microphone.
Brad said last week that you guys would look at the number 2 quarterback spot with Ryan and Quincy. Do you think about elevating now Quincy there, you know, with Ryan being a senior and Quincy looking to get him some more reps?
Quincy's taking more reps, you know, as we prepare for this week and, you know, on in the future. We'll still need Ryan as we move forward, whether it be situationally or just in the game. So things can change awfully quickly. All three of those guys got to be ready to play.
I don't know if you watched the Notre Dame game this weekend. Do you take anything away from that, considering what the weather was like in that game? Do you kind of have to factor that in when you're evaluating if you're watching them?
Well, the weather certainly was a factor. You know, just watching the game. You know, I know that we will see the Notre Dame team that we saw in all the weeks before that. You know, I know just reading their comments and watching the game, they'll be ready to respond after that game last week.
It seems like they have a pretty veteran defensive front. How big of a challenge is that for you guys, especially with how young your guys are and still a developing group?
Sure. I mean, that, you know, if you look at their team across the board, they seem to be an older, developed team. You know, particularly on the defensive front, where they can certainly rush the passer and have been very good against the run. So it's going to be a big challenge for our young guys to keep their technique when playing against really talented, good football players.
Hey, Coach. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm hanging in. Just talk a little bit about Colbeck's progress and if you feel like he's emerging as one of the leaders in the locker room and also just kind of stepping up and his evolution at the same time. I know he hasn't been out there.
Well, he's been hurt, so he hasn't been practicing. So, I mean, hasn't had much chance to develop. We're anxious to get him back healthy and get him out there and see what he can do.
With the buys, you know, recently, last 2 years, kind of struggled coming off a buy. Anything that you've done differently, or have you changed anything, noticed anything kind of in those last 2 years after off weeks?
No.
Questions for Coach?
Notre Dame's quarterback, Ian Book, what does he kind of bring to the game, and what have you kind of seen from him by watching film?
I really felt like I believe it was last year at some point. I may be wrong, but at some point early in the year, they made a move to go fully with him as their quarterback, and it really changed them offensively. I mean, it just it really hasn't stopped since they made that move. It's a guy that can throw the ball, but is athletic, gets out of trouble, makes plays with his feet, but also keeps his eyes downfield and can really hurt you on the move. I think he's been a really efficient, good player for him, and maybe one of the reasons over the last year and a half they've made pretty big strides on that side of the ball.
Trey Turner said after the game that you kind of had talked to the wide receivers. You know, the last week was kind of the first week they had been kind of together, healthy. Are you feeling like they could kind of start putting some games in a row here? I mean, because you haven't had that group kind of together all season.
Yeah, it's nice to get them all out there together, competing for playing time. You know, I hope that they can continue to improve. I think Coach Williams has done a great job with them, bringing those guys along. And, you know, I'm optimistic that they can continue to get better and kind of get their feet underneath them. And, you know, hopefully for this big, long stretch we've got here of five straight games that they can stay healthy and continue to be productive.
Was Grimsley banged up at all? I mean, he just hasn't had as many reps. What was going on?
No, he hasn't been hurt. He's just, there have been some personnel deals, some things that have happened during the game that we've ended up in some different personnel groups.
The trip up to Notre Dame in 2016, do you kind of take anything away from that as maybe a learning moment or a lesson to teach to these guys being in a place like that?
I don't know how many of them we've got that were there. Doesn't seem like very many. I mean, there's not. No. I mean, we know we're going to go play a very talented football team in a hostile environment. So I don't know if there's much to glean from things that happened 2 years ago.
We haven't talked too much about Christian Darasaw this year. Maybe that's a good thing. If you don't mention your left tackle too much, he's probably doing his job. How has his progress been this year, and if you like sort of his trajectory as a player?
I do. He's a talented young man that works hard, is incredibly tough, has played, through the bumps and bruises and that maybe some other people wouldn't have been able to play through, particularly last year. Just continues to improve and has been a source of comfort for us at left tackle at a young age. So works hard on his craft, is highly intelligent, understands what we're trying to get accomplished, continues to improve.
On the other side, Brad said it. It is kind of rare when you have a rotation going right tackle. Last week or before the bye, you did every other series until overtime, basically. Have you done that before, where you've had just two guys rotating back and forth? For not just 1 week or two, but kind of over a period of time.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a couple guys that you feel like deserve that opportunity, I think you owe it to the team to keep them fresh and keep them rotating in there. And Luke continues to get better, and we've had some issues with Silas in terms of just cramping and being fresh towards the end of the game. So it's been good to get him on the side a little bit so he can be fresh when he's in there.
Hey, Coach. What's it been like seeing this young group of talent kind of rally around each other and kind of foster that brotherhood and seeing it play out live? What's it been like for you?
I've enjoyed. We've got a long way to go, and we'll have plenty of tests in front of us. But I like our group of guys. They seem to enjoy each other's company and enjoy competing together. We're still learning and evolving as a team from a maturation level and preparation every week. I mean, that's something that I think is a little bit more normal for older players and a little bit harder, a little bigger strain on some of the younger guys. But I've enjoyed it thus far, and I'm excited about what they and what we can be as we move forward.
Have you ever been a part of a division where everybody kind of seems about the same level? I mean, it seems like last place in the team beats the first place in the division on a regular interval every week.
I don't know. I feel like we had the same discussions last year. I feel like it's just kind of the way the division is. It seems like anything can happen, and in some cases anything has happened. And but it seems, in my short time, it seems to be a fairly regular occurrence.
And we haven't asked you in a while about Jalen Holston. Is he getting any closer to coming back?
He is. I don't know. I mean, we're certainly within the realm of saying, we're looking at things in terms of weeks as opposed to months now. He's made good progress. I just don't know when. He's doing quite a bit more than he has, not in terms of practice, but just in terms of mobility and running around and that sort of stuff. So those things are kind of hard to project, but I still feel like there's a good chance we'll have him. I know he wants to be back. We'll have him at some point during the year.
Zion was dressed last week for the first time. Anticipate kind of him getting in the mix now, in the coming weeks here, because we hadn't heard much about him. Obviously, he had hurt his leg, I guess, but where's he at in terms of coming back?
Yeah, I hurt his foot, so he, on a freak deal, non-contact deal early in the year, and is working to get back. I mean, it's got to knock the rust off. It's one thing to be healthy, it's another thing to be ready to play. So he's working hard, getting some good reps in there. Trying to work his way back in the rotation.